friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie, yo, 723. In that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters. The channel that we going back to today, I have been ready to watch his latest video with y'all ever since he put it out last Saturday. And that channel that I'm talking about is The Lazy Man, better known as Lazy Masquerade. Back to Lazy Masquerade, Bean Team. And the title of the video is Debunking the Internet's Most Disturbing Hoaxes That Scared Millions. I like the title of this one, y'all. The Lazy Man is about to debunk some of the most disturbing things found on the internet. And I'm ready to get into it. But before we get into it, Bean Team, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please. We are back to the Lazy Man Masquerade. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
It's true that reality is often scarier than fiction. But what happens when the line between what's real and what's fake becomes so blurred that people start to confuse the two? Though some hoaxes are harmless fun, others have sparked panic, fear, and even real-world consequences. Today, we'll be looking into some of the wildest and most unsettling deceptions to ever grace, or perhaps disgrace, the internet. We'll start with arguably the most obscure entry in this video, as I've only seen it covered by a couple of my fellow YouTubers, namely Kalaki and Coop. So, back in January of this year, a user named Microwaved Meatballs made a post on the Internet Mystery subreddit that caught my attention. About 20 years ago, a friend of mine, he was quite odd, told me about ecuerpos.com. It was in Spanish, and claimed to be selling cadaver parts worldwide. I didn't want anything to do with the site, so I didn't really engage much with my friend while he was showing off his find, but it always stuck in the back of my mind. Looking at it so much later, I see links to blogs that discuss head transplants, artificial life, and other bizarre philosophical thinking. Has anyone ever heard of this? The site has since been deleted, but aside from a few lost images, all of its content can still be accessed through the Wayback Machine. The first mention of e-cuerpos, or e-bodies as it translates to in English, seems to date back to October 2005, with its company statement reading, eCuerpos has proudly served the South American market since its foundation in 1994. Through eCuerpos, you can order human bodies and limbs from anywhere. The various pages can be browsed in English, Portuguese, or in its default language setting, Spanish, and looking at the homepage, we can see a list of all of the products available for purchase on this macabre marketplace, from individual body parts to complete corpses. And though the icons used to depict each item appear cartoonish, if you click on them, you'll be linked to images of seemingly real limbs, digits, and torsos. These photos have thankfully been cropped to hide any cut marks. Most appear to have been taken from above, as if the body was stretched out on an autopsy table. But given that each item has been isolated from its background, it's hard to say that with certainty.
And you know what's even crazier than the fact that these people are selling these body parts? Is the fact that it's actually people out there in the world that will buy it, being seen. It's really somebody out there that will order a woman's left arm, a man's right 5 fingers. You know what I'm saying? It's really people out here that would be buying this stuff, and as y'all see, for thousands of dollars. It's just crazy all the way around.
Beside each image are product details, including the price per item, country of origin, and vintage, which presumably refers to the birth year of the decedent, or the year in which their body was frozen. There are also brief descriptions of each item. For example, on this listing for female breasts, we're told that they're sold separately and may contain dye, biopsies, or tumours. Scrolling down further, you can read comments left by past customers. Reviewing the male eyes that they had purchased, one user wrote, "These were beautiful, fresh and not cloudy, unlike most of the competitors. Other eyes looked like they were either scraped out with a fork or smashed in transit." Reviewing the female forequarter, another said, "I acquire cadavers for our medical school and surgical departments in Guadalajara. Whether fresh, frozen, or preserved, Equerpos have always provided excellent quality products and services. Especially for the students, each cadaver has a fascinating story to be figured out detective style through dissection." The concept of a site selling dead humans on the surface web isn't actually so out there. Though most countries consider human remains to be controlled material, in the US, body brokerage is legal in almost every state, provided the specimens are donated willingly and aren't being sold for organ harvesting. Unfortunately, many people who agree to leave their remains to science end up in the hands of brokers who sell them for profit, and while some do get sent to med schools, others are thawed with garden hoses and sold to people with questionable intentions. As Boston College law professor Ray Madoff told Reuters, "We know very little about who's acquiring these bodies and what they're doing with them." Indeed, by Equerpos' own admission, they don't just sell these body parts to medical schools for training purposes, but to scientists, collaborators, and human body enthusiasts. So, in essence, anyone.
Yes, that's just long story short, story long. If you got the money, you can get the body part. Long story short, story long. We don't care who you is.
Delving further into the site, you'll find the FAQ section, where the company explain their shipping and privacy policies, as well as covering some of the legalities in purchasing body parts. Though crucially, they don't mention how they source their inventory. Given that certain items are listed as coming from 1970s Chile, some have questioned whether they could have come from victims of the Pinochet regime, under whom a lot of Chileans disappeared. So, Equerpos, an elaborate hoax, or a shady relic of the old internet? On the one hand, the prices for all of these body parts are unrealistically high. Though you can't put a price on a human life, a lifeless human goes for between $3,000 and $10,000 on the American market. However, on Equerpos, they were apparently being sold for $200,000. That's an immediate red flag. On the other hand, there are ads at the top of the homepage which link to third-party websites dealing with artificial life. These seem to be completely independent from Equerpos and genuinely authentic. This one, for instance, called calresco.org, was established way back in 1998 and is still going strong today. This seems like a rabbit hole in and of itself, one dealing with the alien thought virus of complex systems sciences. What does that have to do with Equerpos? It's not entirely clear, as there don't seem to be any parallels between the two sites, other than the fact that one links to the other, of course. But there may be something in here that I'm missing. As you can see, Calresco is gargantuan, though also vaguely cultish and labelled as not secure, so I don't recommend going there yourself. I may look into this site in a future upload, but for now, let's head back to Equerpos. On the right hand side of the site, you'll notice some endorsements left by previous customers, and one in particular stands out, made by a CT surgeon named Joel. Impeccable service, with quick and efficient shipping and no leakage. Well done, Equerpos. Below Joel's name is a link to C1D1T1, a strange site run by Joel and his friends Kenny and Dan, one which revolves around transhumanism. Taking care of a body is expensive, inconvenient, and often embarrassing for the patient. Bodies decay, and a mind attached to a decaying body decays faster. Many attempts have been made by brilliant scientists and quacks alike to provide relief for those patients who want to live independently of their non-functioning bodies. Our research into making physically compact, long-term cardiopulmonary bypass and continuous dialysis a reality may provide a viable solution where other techniques have failed. We're chronicling our lives and thoughts as we pursue our scientific goals using our pooled expertise in mechanical engineering, microvascular surgery, cardiovascular physiology, and neuroscience. The website functions as a digital diary of sorts, documenting Joel, Kenny, and Dan's progress with what they call Project Headbody, a series of underground experiments with the ultimate goal being to remove a living human's head while keeping their brain fully functional. Though scientists have experimented with head transplants on animals with very limited success in the past, I'm not aware of any ever attempting to surgically create self-sufficient heads, though in their first post, Joel and his team claim to have already had decent results practicing on rats. In an update made on September 30th, 2005, Joel explained that he had purchased a complete human specimen from ecuerpos.com, hence his positive endorsement, and on October 4th, uploaded a video introducing everyone to Bernie, who he described as a 240-pound, hairy dead man. In the footage, Bernie is plunked unceremoniously on a sofa between Joel and Kenny as they discuss cryogenics and the movie Weekend at Bernie's.
Now see, this is why I hope the lazy man debunked this ish right here. I hope he come back and say that this was a hoax video and that man ain't dead, he just sleeping. You know what I'm saying, man? And the thing that separate this from science to me being team is the fact that I doubt that these dead bodies that they are selling and these body parts that they are selling, the actual person consented to it before they died. You know what I'm saying? Like an organ donor or something like that. People who give themselves to science, yes, that's something different. But I don't feel like these people doing it. I feel like some kind of way these people acquiring these bodies and then selling them on the internet. You know what I'm saying, man? They may be digging them up out their freaking grave for all we know. I'm just saying, man. And I know this is fake, but when we listen to these stories, big team, I'm gonna listen to them as if I'm thinking the hoax is real until the lazy man debunk it. Let's keep going.
Properties. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine the shards of ice, you know, they're like blades cutting into the flesh and into the tissues. You know, it's totally crazy. Yeah, it's a texture. You imagine a steak. You freeze a steak, thawed, freeze it, thawed, freeze it, thawed. Eventually, it's going to turn into mush. It's just all those shards of ice are going to cut the tissues. The juices are going to flow out, and it's just going to be like gruel. Who wants that?
In a follow-up video, Joel explains his plan to remove Bernie's head in preparation for experimenting on a live monkey. While doing so, his co-workers play a practical joke on him.
Not sure how it's going to work. Could get a little ugly, especially if his skin starts to slough off. Oh, Jesus!
The last major character to cover in this bizarre series of experiments is Hedy, the soon-to-be test subject. In a post titled, "I Need a Monkey," Joel wrote about searching for a primate and linked to a website called beniagra.in, one which allegedly sold exotic live animals for rearing, loving, or eating. He claims to have purchased Hedy the chimp from that site. Unfortunately for the Head Body Project, one of the group, Dan, became very attached to Hedy and began to question the ethics of their research.
Being a medical student and dissecting living creatures doesn't seem like the right thing to do. I think that we should cut up things that just aren't alive.
You think?
And finally, on October 11th, Dan stole Hedy and disappeared. A week later, Joel and Kenny received an envelope. Inside was a film cartridge sent by Dan, confirming that he and Hedy were still alive. So, a ridiculous chain of events, lashings of early 2000s humour, a body that seemingly breathes, and a chimp giving the most convincing performance. This whole thing screams hoax. Oh, and that website where Joel supposedly purchased Hedy from? Beniagra? there's a commercial featured on that site, and I'll let it speak for itself.
Hey, I am Benny Agra. You need a cobra, tiger, even a baboon, then call me Benny Agra. You will receive the animal in 30 days or less. Granted.
Truly.
Benny, that was the most horrible freaking commercial I ever seen, man. Seriously, bro, how can we take you seriously with that ish you just put up there?
Oscar worthy. Now, you're probably wondering, if this was all an elaborate hoax, one which involved creating multiple websites, making regular updates, and hiring a primate, what were the creators hoping to achieve? Well, the final update to appear on C1D1T1, made on October 20th, 2005, kind of gave the game away. In it, Joel snarkily remarked that MTV had stolen their idea and linked to a website for Head and Body, a miniseries created in partnership with Motorola, consisting of 8 mobisodes designed to be watched on your mobile phone, if you can imagine something so futuristic. After the success of the Blair Witch Project in the late 90s, many companies tried to emulate their guerrilla marketing strategy, making use of this new internet thing to creatively promote their products. Following suit, MTV employed Night Agency to generate buzz for their new miniseries, and they in turn came up with the dark triad of E Cuerpos, C1D1T1, and Benny Agra. So now I can say with 100% confidence that I haven't shown you anything that breaches YouTube's guidelines, and that this was all just another unsuccessful attempt at early viral marketing. A failed MTV ARG. Yeah, unfortunately for everyone involved, the show went largely unnoticed. Not a single comment was ever made under any of the vlog entries, and the entire project fell into obscurity. Between 2006 and 2007, all 3 of the hoax websites were taken down, though in the case of E Cuerpos, its domain lived on. When examining the site's data archive, some of the links from 2006 have suspicious titles, so I'm assuming after E Cuerpos was abandoned by MTV, a different breed of body enthusiast repurposed the domain. Those archived links don't work anymore, by the way. Don't ask me how I know that.
No, man, like the gig was up when they included MTV and Motorola. Like MTV and Motorola really gonna be sponsoring this crazy ish, man. That's when they're like, all right, y'all capping, y'all just yapping at this point. We don't believe you anymore. Freaking crazy, y'all. But one thing I do want to point out, because I understand how the lazy man saying this was back when everybody was trying to eat off that Blair Witch Project wave. Listen, Bean Team. Listen, man. I was like 6, 7, 8 years old when the Blair Witch Project came out. I still can remember my sister and her boyfriend. It's way back when you had to go to the freaking Blockbuster, but we had something else. Well, we had a Blockbuster, but it was another name for another movie rental place. But that's beside the fact. They rented that goddamn movie, man, brought it back to the house, and I watched it with them. And like I said, I'm like 6, 7, 8 years old. That is scared the living sugary Honda iced tea out of me. It scared the shit out of me, BT. Seriously, man, like that is scared me so bad. And the reason it got me so bad because I thought it was real. You know what I'm saying? That was when they was making movies and they were supposedly real documentaries. And the way they was filming it, it was the students it was like 2 dudes and a girl, and they the ones actually behind the camera in the freaking woods, and then the way it ended with the dude standing in the corner, like, oh my God, man, Blair Witch Project, it kind of scaring me now that I'm bringing it up again, man. If I put myself back in those shoes back when I was that small watching it for the first time, y'all, that was crazy, man. I kind of got off track. Shout out to the Blair Witch Project, though. Good times indeed. Let's get back into it, y'all. That one has been debunked, and they really debunked themselves at the end. Let's keep going.
One of the things I appreciate most about my work.
Lazy man with his commercial, y'all. Yeah, that freaking Blair Witch Project, y'all. If you around my age and you was growing up when that ish came out, Lord have mercy. That was one of the ones. I used to be scared to go to sleep. Like, literally, I did not want to go to sleep, especially with the freaking lights off. Let's go, man. Let me get my mind up off of that.
The weird side of YouTube, home to some of the strangest videos ever uploaded to the internet. In her twisted hall of fame hide countless uncanny clips, ones that have stuck in our minds, played on fears we didn't even know we had, and sparked dark theories that persist to this day, though few have ever reached the same level of infamy as blankroomsoup.avi. First uploaded to the Renaissance Men channel in 2005 under the title Freaky Soup Guy, Blank Room Soup went largely unnoticed. That is, until 2014, when it was re-uploaded by Maintenance Tunnels with the name we all know today. For those who've been living in their own blank room for the past decade, the video features a man sitting at a table, slurping from a bowl of soup with an oversized spoon. As he eats, two costume figures with blank expressions and large heads silently approach him and pat his back, seemingly offering him comfort. Suddenly, the man begins sobbing. The video then abruptly ends. Clocking in.
I would have ended it before it ended itself. I would have been clicked off that edge. Like, what the F is this? That was just weird as hell. No explanation, no nothing. Just like, what am I looking at? Next.
At just 1 minute and 6 seconds, the upload more closely resembles an extract from a snuff film than anything else. Something about the video just felt wrong. The man's distress seemed too real. The silent figures too unsettling. The room too blank. The broth too unseasoned. And it didn't take long for viewers to start speculating about its origin. The most popular theory being that the video was sourced from a so-called Red Room, sites on the dark web where paying customers can watch people be tortured and killed, typically in real time. Those who believed that theory speculated that the man was being forced to eat human remains, possibly those of his wife and children, and that this was set to be his last meal before meeting his own demise.
Well, lazy man, now that you put it in that way, it give a whole new meaning to the video. You know what I'm saying? What if those people in those freaking costumes are his freaking kidnappers? Now that just spooked the F out of me, especially talking about eating his own family on camera.
Others suggested that the man was being force-fed until his stomach ruptured. Others still speculated that this was a recording from some underground psychological experiment. Discussion groups and forums dedicated to explaining the video proliferated, and more people became interested in uncovering the meaning behind the clip, the fate of the soup eater, and the identities of his costume tormentors. As for the costumes themselves, many websites claimed, and indeed continue to claim, that nobody knows who these characters are meant to resemble. But that simply isn't true. They're actually Ray Rays, characters created by Raymond Percy, an animator, artist, and occasional voice actor who played Flash the Sloth in Zootopia. The humanoid Ray Rays were originally based on doodles Percy created, and he often used these suits in live stage performances to explore themes of alienation, inhibition, and the deep-seated need to entertain. In fact, they sometimes served as the visualization of Raymond Percy's innermost thoughts and feelings, hence why he called them Ray Rays. In a 2015 email exchange with Rainbot, Percy explained that after a performance in Hollywood, 2 of his Ray Ray costumes mysteriously went missing. Percy believed that someone from his audience had waited until after the show to steal them. Then, weeks later, he claims to have received a disturbing email with a video attachment, that being Blank Room Soup. Percy was of course disturbed by what he saw. Someone, somewhere, had taken his characters and used them for something deeply unsettling, and thus he decided to upload the video to his YouTube account, Renaissance Men, giving it the title Freaky Soup Guy, in the hopes that his community might be able to figure out what was going on. As Blank Room Soup gained more attention, more videos began appearing. A second video, titled Soup Torture, surfaced back in 2007. The format was similar. The same man eating soup in the same blank room, with the same silent Ray Ray figures standing ominously in the background. But this time, something different happened.
What the fuck? And then if you just listen to the way he eating the soup, y'all, it sounds like he's struggling to eat it, like he being forced to eat it, like he full as hell, like he can't eat no more. I don't know what the freak going on.
I'm sure most of you agree there's something off about this second video. Put simply, it feels far less authentic than the original. Why would the costume figure run at him like that? What was the point of such a dramatic movement? And why did it look like he wasn't going to follow through with a strike? Did he just stop when the footage cut? If so, why did the man begin to let out a scream? Years later, in 2022 and 2023 respectively, Blank Room Soup Parts 3 and 4 surfaced. Let's take a quick look at them.
So I ain't gonna lie to me, the like video 3 and 4 is not even spooky as video 1 and 2. Like over the years they have got even worse, and now it's kind of getting like hilariously like this is some fake-ish. You know what I'm saying?
Part 4 is just your generic found footage film. Nothing fancy to go over there. But Part 3 is where this series truly jumped the shark. It shows one of the Ray Rays manhandling a new victim. Thing is, the loosely tied up figure in this clip is quite obviously Gil Sharon, a member of the band Stolen Babies. The same band that Raymond Percy's sister, Dominique Percy, is the lead vocalist of.
Wow.
The same band that have featured Ray Rays in their music videos.
Wow.
Yeah, the odds of Raymond Percy not being involved in the creation of parts 3 and 4 sit somewhere around the 0% mark. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that he was behind the first 2 videos. After all, he may have just been contributing to the mystery, using his own friends and extra costumes. What is clear is that parts 3 and 4 were staged. So, you have to ask yourself, how likely is it that the original was fake too? In my opinion, the answer is more nuanced than you might assume. I think it is obvious that Percy made up the story he shared with Rainbot about the stolen Ray Ray suits, and that he did indeed create the original Blank Room Soup video himself. However, I honestly don't think his initial intention was to stage a Red Room-styled mystery, but rather to express his inner turmoil through art. In his own words, Percy often used the Ray Rays to visualize and have fun with his feelings of loneliness and isolation. With that in mind, I believe Blank Room Soup shouldn't be interpreted literally, but metaphorically. A sad, anonymized man, eating alone in a blank, fluorescently lit, windowless room. That's surely the best visual expression of loneliness and isolation one can imagine, right? The Ray Rays aren't supposed to be the man's captors mocking him, but rather the physical representation of his emotions. You'll notice that his tears only begin once they touch him, and if you listen closely to the video, you start to get the sense that the man isn't just crying like one might from fear, but rather cry laughing, like one might during an emotional release. I strongly suspect that Percy, known for his dark and playful creative style, uploaded Blank Room Soup under the much less ominous title Freaky Soup Guy back in 2005, intending for it to be interpreted artistically.
Yeah.
However, when his viewers commented that the video was actually creepy, he leaned into the eeriness and created a second piece in 2007 that was far more straightforward and, frankly, much less convincing. Though some claim that's impossible because these two clips were filmed at the same time, you can actually tell that some time has passed between them. For instance, notice how the plug sockets in the back change slightly between the two clips, and how the man's hair is styled slightly differently. In 2014, someone then re-uploaded the original to the Maintenance Tunnels channel, where, again, it was taken at face value by most viewers. The video gained widespread attention, and when sleuths finally traced the Ray Ray mascots back to Percy, he saw an opportunity to indulge in his dark and playful side once again, and fabricated the stolen suits narrative to build an eerie mythology around his old video, fueling speculation and cementing its status as an internet mystery. Percy then created parts 3 and 4, perhaps to bring attention to his little sister's band, perhaps just to have some fun. So, although I don't think the original video began its life as a hoax, in a strange way, it morphed into one over time. You may not agree with my interpretation of the Blank Room Soup video, and that's no problem. But given that it was originally uploaded to Raymond Percy's personal YouTube channel, using his characters, and was followed by a video featuring his friend, I'm confident saying that the original wasn't sourced from the dark web, and was in fact created by the artist himself. And if you don't agree with that, then I urge you to go back to blankroomsoup.avi and take a closer look at the man with anonymized eyes. And while you're there, simply compare him to a photo of Raymond Percy.
I agree with the lazy man on that one, y'all. I pretty much agree with everything he said, man. I think that the dude, you know, he was coming up with this artistic video in his eyes for his viewers, but in the viewer eyes, it was something completely different and something completely twisted and crazy, and he just ran with that narrative, and he continued to make videos throughout the years. Think about it. This started like in the mid 2000s or something around that time, and extended to the 2020s, 2022 when he came out with part 3 and 4, whatever. Part 3 and 4 looked the fakest to me, and that's when we really find out that, dude, you and your own got you in the damn video talking about they done stole your costumes and all that, and this dude that y'all got kidnapped is a part of your sister band. Like, that's the one that really debunked it. But even when you look at the first two now, after you have that information, even those look staged, and the whole thing with what the lazy man was saying about his artistic thing about this being him, how he feel inside, and him just expressing it in this type of way. He lonely, he only one in the room, and these creatures is really his feelings. Like, it all makes sense, being team. But at the same time, I will say this: if you put yourself back in the shoes of when this ish was first released, especially, you got to think about this when videos was fresh, like videos on the internet. It ain't like nowadays where it's a billion, probably it's more than likely trillions of videos on the internet. Back then it wasn't like that, man. This was our first time experiencing ish as far as like the internet. This back when yahoo.com used to be more popular than Google. You know what I'm saying, man? So I can see why people was freaked out by that ish, and he just ran with the narrative. I digress. Let's keep going, y'all. Good video. Good video.
On April 3rd, 2017, a post appeared on 4chan's politically incorrect board, simply titled, "How Deep Are You Into Conspiracies?" Attached was a Galaxy Brain tier list, with each section containing entries related to government cover-ups, forbidden knowledge, and secret organizations. But buried beneath the more absurd topics about time-traveling assassins and North Korean utopias was an inclusion that caught everyone's attention. The 2006 volleyball incident. One commenter responded, "I've only met one person IRL, and 2 people online who know about that." And when others began to ask about what the incident was, OP elaborated. "Here's what I know firsthand. There was a small explosion or mass shooting at a volleyball game, somewhere in the Dakotas or Nebraska. It was never specified. I know that sounds like BS, but that's what's weird about it. I was on a trip to Rushmore back then. A newspaper at a Nebraska gas station reported a shooting in a small town 10 miles away. When I end up in South Dakota, I read about it again around Kadoka. Says there was a shooting in Gettysburg, same state. By the time I leave, I hear little talk about it, only once during motel breakfast. When I get home, I ask my friend what he thought about the whole thing, and he remembers it taking place in North Dakota. It stayed in the back of my mind for a long time, until I slowly forgot. One day I remembered, and joked about it during a gaming session, and these two guys asked to talk more about it. They had the same experience too, and I remember on the X board, someone talking about something similar to the volleyball incident. So I just stuck it in this image, hoping someone would remember. 17 to 24 people died at once, and no one talks about it? After that post, discussions about the 2006 volleyball incident spread to the paranormal board, Reddit, and other various forums. People began searching old news archives and combing through local papers, looking for information about the incident. But the deeper they dived, the less they found. Not a single record, article, or witness statement. The event simply didn't exist. And yet, more and more people were stepping forward, claiming to remember reading or hearing about it back in 2006.
Man, this sounds like the Mandela effect to me. You know what I'm saying? You think they remember something that never freaking happened.
Some believed this was a new example of the Mandela effect, a collective false memory, perhaps one they had confused with the Platte Canyon high school crisis. But others had a far darker theory. What if the 2006 volleyball incident had happened, but was intentionally erased from history? A government operation in a small town, covered up so thoroughly that no traces remained. As one discussion on the X board read, how does one live after taking the red pill on the 2006 volleyball incident? Fill me in, Anons. What happened? Supposedly, a gunman shot and killed 14 people during a 2006 volleyball high school game in South Dakota or Nebraska. Everything was covered up, and it was never reported in the press, and it's been forgotten about by everyone. If you were there and say you remember seeing 14 people die that night, you're labeled crazy, etc. Personally, if this did happen, I wonder if they had someone in mind that they wanted to kill, and the others were just unfortunate bystanders. But we'll never know. Crowd subversion and collective removed memory. It was the sketch of a greater plan yet to come. For years, discussion about the 2006 volleyball incident was confined to small online communities. That is, until photographic evidence surfaced. In a June 2024 video, Mutahar was exploring a thread on the image board TrashChan when he stumbled upon a set of disturbing images. Stills taken from a so-called home video recording of the volleyball incident. The first still showed the soon-to-be victims gathered around a volleyball net in a school gymnasium. Below that were images of blood on the court, body bags haphazardly scattered around, several players spread out on the ground, and a blurred frame with the words CSI, not for release, plastered at the bottom. At first glance, they were chilling. But with a little analysis, these images can easily be debunked. This first image gives us a decent look at the gymnasium where the incident supposedly occurred. Recognizing the wall pattern, flag placement, and distinctive U on the court, a few users were quick to identify it as the Utica High School gymnasium. And crucially, Utica High School has never been the setting of a massacre. This is the only one of the 6 images that I'm convinced is even real. Not only do the other 5 photos lack the timestamp in the bottom left, suggesting they weren't even captured by the same camera, but upon closer inspection, they appear to be AI generated. Despite supposedly being from the same recording, there's zero consistency between them. They all have remarkably different saturation levels, and the court itself has a different texture in each frame. But let's go through them all one by one in detail. Starting with this image, the shapes lying on the ground barely resemble human beings at all, and the colour of their outfits don't match those in the timestamped image. I'm assuming this is meant to be one of the players' heads, though I'm not sure what's going on with her distorted body, or this bizarrely long strand of hair. A similar black line can be seen in this next image, running along the same angle. It's presumably meant to be a court marking, but it leads nowhere. This was likely some sort of error, where the AI didn't know how to generate the markings, so it reacted to the prompt in the same way in both images. Then there's this other marking, which is strangely in focus compared to the rest of the picture. And I mean, come on, what's even going on with the white markings in this photo?
I know,
They're extremely
right?
wonky, overly distinct, and seem to somehow go over the bloodstains on the ground. Speaking of which, the bloodstain patterns themselves appear extremely fake. In this one, it even has that raspberry jam appearance that AI tools love to use.
I know, right? That damn blood damn near look purple, being teen. Seriously, you can see purple in it. But nah, man, these blood stains are freaking terrible in these photos. That's what's giving it away the most to me. AI elfed up on the blood stains. Even the body, for real, when you really examine it.
While we're here, take a look at those legs. Not only is the perspective all wrong, but they all appear to be floating due to a lack of any shadows. Whoever generated this image also appears to have blacked out this bottom section, presumably because it looked too fake to include. Thus, they covered it with a CSI stamp. To create the illusion they were all captured on an old camcorder, the creator then slapped an unconvincing distortion effect over each image, almost certainly NTSC QT. In fact, you can see identical glitch lines running through most of them, confirming that this isn't an organic distortion. Considering these images never appeared online before 2024, I think we can safely say that whoever posted them was playing into the rumors. Simply debunking these images doesn't prove that the 2006 volleyball incident never happened, but ultimately, there's no evidence it did. So, what seems more likely to you? That dozens of students were mowed down by CIA operatives for seemingly no reason at all, and that despite word initially getting out, the government was able to suppress news of the incident and prevent the parents and friends of the victims from ever talking about it? Or that the whole thing was an invention, conceived by a 4chan anon who added it to their tier list as an experiment, a way for them to test how easily baseless rumors can proliferate online. If you said the former, then it may be time to switch off the computer and touch some grass. This whole mystery is most definitely a hoax, and certainly not the first of its kind to originate on 4chan's pollboard, a place where, famously, trolls gather to troll other trolls. And in this instance, the joke, if you can call it that, got about as much attention as OP could have hoped for. After rumors of the volleyball incident caught traction, someone later faked these images to add to the mystery. With some semblance of legitimacy, the incident was then added to iceberg charts and covered by big YouTubers and TikTokers, and the whole thing snowballed. At its core, this is just a modern-day creepypasta, one that spread like wildfire online, mainly because, as recent times have taught us, people desperately want to believe in hidden truths.
Yeah.
Indeed, if there's one lesson we can and should take away from the 2006 volleyball hoax, it's that in this digital age, the scariest thing isn't necessarily what's been erased from history, but how easy it'll soon be to create history that never even happened.
Yes, lazy man, he hit the nail on the head, Bean Team. That's the most scariest part, is how this freaking AI just gonna elf-ish up in the future, man. We ain't gonna be able to know what's real and what's not. And then, even just going past our lifetime, think about 100 years from now and how they gonna be looking back on history and how they ain't gonna be able to know what really happened in 2025 and what didn't. You know what I'm saying, man? Or maybe by that time we'll have some type of technology that will be able to debunk AI images on its own or not. You know what I'm saying? Maybe somebody create some a special software that'll be able to debunk images at the click of a button. I don't know, man. It's just, it's getting scary out here, Bean Team. It's getting scary, but I don't think that incident happened at all. I think that was a type of Mandela effect type of thingy going on, and people start thinking they remember something that they didn't, because I just highly doubt that all those people, like 14 plus people, got killed at a volleyball game, and ain't nobody been a real whistleblower. Ain't nobody, no family, no friends ever came out. There's no record of who died or nothing. I highly doubt it, Bean Team. Let's go. We almost done, y'all. I think we got maybe one, maybe two more stories to go.
Established by Gulag prisoners in 1935 and located wholly within the Arctic Circle, hides the world's northernmost metropolis, Norilsk. Being home to some of the world's largest mining and smelting companies, and the site of one of history's worst oil spills, It shouldn't surprise you that it's considered one of the most polluted cities in all of Russia, and by extension, one of the most polluted in all of the world. There are even reports of a so-called dead zone outside of the city, heavily impacted by acid rain brought on by all of the sulfur dioxide that the Nornickel company pumps into the atmosphere. And yet, despite being industrially significant, politically newsworthy, and having a sizable population, I doubt many of you have ever heard of Norilsk. And that may have something to do with the fact that it's a closed city. Though few would ever choose to holiday there, seeing how temperatures in the winter can fall below -30 degrees centigrade, you wouldn't even be able to if you tried. Outsiders need a special pass to enter the city, and very few foreign journalists have ever been allowed in. In fact, the city's been closed off since 1956, when people first began questioning the high death toll among the Gulag labourers sent there. In its first 2 decades alone, at least 16,800 inmates perished while working in Norilsk mines, mostly from hypothermia, starvation, exhaustion, and itchy fingers on Kalashnikov triggers. Although forced labour has since been abolished, access to the city still remains heavily restricted to this day. And yet, unlike with many other closed cities, if you go to Norilsk on Google Maps, you'll find that you have the option to enter Street View. And if you begin exploring her smog-ridden, frost-covered streets, you'll be met with a strange sight. Figures in coloured hazmat suits, walking around among the residents, peering around corners, and standing ominously at the end of roads. After a while, you start to get the sense that Norilsk isn't an ordinary city at all, and that perhaps there's a good reason the Russian government won't let visitors enter. Many forum users began pondering who these bizarro Teletubbies might be. Theories ranged from these being the winter clothes of a local company, to there being some sort of secret weapons facility in the city. The more grounded said that these were obviously just killer Sour Patch Kids. Others applied Occam's razor, and said that the most likely explanation was that they were pranksters following the Google car around the city's main street, as many people have done in other parts of the world. There's just one problem with that though. Norilsk has no Google HQ, no road leading to it, and the Google-mobile has never even ventured to the city. Indeed, the more perceptive among you may have already noticed that these aren't official Street View images, but are rather a series of photos uploaded by a woman named Anna Tolkacheva. So, what's going on here?
Man, well, Anna could just be a part of the hoax then. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking that those was actual, real, Google certified pictures and images. But if this just a independent woman putting this ish up, she probably part of the ish.
Well, a quick Google search of Anna's name tells us everything we need to know. She's a Russian artist, and these faceless sprites are but one of her many projects. She even has a website with a page dedicated to this particular antic, which she titled Color Spirits. There, she explains how this whole thing was an art project, one with the express purpose of drawing attention to Norilsk's pollution problem. The Nornickel factory creates a lot of pollution in the city and the surrounding tundra. Occasionally, one can see yellow smoke from the factory, or even red rain. If you look at the surrounding tundra from the Sputnik maps, you can see red, green, and yellow laces in several areas. Norilsk is a half-closed city, so it's hard to get in. Moreover, there are no Google Street Views, so you can't walk its streets, even virtually. Anna goes on to explain how she created her own street view of Norilsk. She walked around the city with a 360-degree camera on her head, alongside 4 residents dressed in chemical protection suits. Their colours are not only linked to the Google logo, but also to the colour of the pollution belched out by their local factories. And so, the mystery of the city's colourful residents is solved. They aren't government agents or chemical workers, but rather an artistic statement against environmental destruction. Anna Tolkacheva turned a city shrouded in secrecy and pollution into a canvas, using the very tools meant to map the world to expose a place that resists being seen. And yet, even knowing the truth, Norilsk remains a fascinating enigma. A city built by prisoners, poisoned by industry, and hidden from outsiders, it stands as a reminder of the power and the consequences of human ambition. And while Google may not have captured its streets, Anna's colour sprites ensure that at least for those who stumble upon them, Norilsk is impossible to ignore.
Yeah. Most definitely impossible to ignore. And I was right. She is in on it, but she was like, hold on, y'all looking at this as something that is not. She explained exactly what it was and what she was doing. You know what I'm saying? She like, no, this is an art project and this is why I'm doing it. Exposing the pollution, giving a great explanation that all made sense. Unlike the other dude with the freaking eating the soup man. I don't even remember the title of the video, but y'all remember who I'm talking about. He fed on to the craziness, but she didn't though, so shout out to her.
Sometime around 2012 or 2013, a disturbing clip was uploaded to the now defunct shock site Masquerade, a snuff video which would come to be known as One Guy, 5 Shotguns. According to those who saw it, the video depicted 5 white males standing in a field, each armed with a shotgun, none of them making any attempt to conceal their face. Their victim, a black male, was tied to a tree. The 5 monsters laughed amongst themselves as they took turns firing into the restrained man, taking off a foot and then a kneecap, before all abruptly firing into him until, as the video's original title stated, his body was turned into ground beef. The executioners could allegedly be heard cheering and howling before the video abruptly cut to black. Though sometimes discussed on shady message boards, for years the video remained nothing more than obscure internet hearsay. That is, until 2021, when it was briefly mentioned in a since-removed YouTube video, the NSFL Lost Media Iceberg, uploaded by the since-terminated YouTube channel, Plagued Moth. This brought renewed attention to the alleged clip, but given that it was featured in a Lost Media Iceberg, many began questioning whether it was real, or simply another internet myth. Despite its convincing details, there's no concrete evidence that One Guy, 5 Shotguns ever existed. No screenshots, no archived links, no credible reports, no proof whatsoever. The first known mention of the video came from the Frying Pan Man, who brought it up in the Plagued Moth Discord server. According to him, he allegedly saw the video when he was 11 years old, but later admitted he may have misremembered something. This is where the idea of false memory comes into play. Though many people claim to have seen 5 Shotguns when they were younger, it's entirely possible that after hearing the details of a fictitious snuff clip, they confused it with some other gruesome video. After all, there are plenty of those lurking in the deep dark crevices of the internet. One of the more likely candidates is a scene from a 2005 shockumentary in which a blindfolded man is tossed into a pit and torn apart by a firing squad. The outdoor setting and overall brutality bear strong similarities to the rumoured One Guy, 5 Shotguns. The two could have merged in people's memories, creating a distorted recollection of an event that never truly happened. So, is One Guy, 5 Shotguns real? The overwhelming evidence, or lack thereof, suggests it's a hoax. Like many other lost media horror stories, this one thrives on speculation, misremembered accounts, and internet folklore. But even if One Guy, 5 Shotguns is fake, plenty of real, horrifying videos do exist out there.
True.
And I'll be getting to some of those in a future upload, very soon.
True, Bean Team. Lazy Man said a mouthful then. That One Guy, 5 Shotgun probably fake, but there's a lot of videos out there on the dark web just like it, Bean Team. Seriously, man, and I hope that one was fake. I hope that really ain't happened. You know what I'm saying? There's no evidence of it, period. So I'm just gonna believe in my mind to keep my mind sane that it's not freaking real. But hey, it goes back to what I just said earlier, man. It's probably something very similar to that video on the freaking internet. It's sad to say it, but I'm pretty much sure it is. And Lazy Man said he gonna get into some of them, Bean Team. But overall, man, this was a great video from the Lazy Man. I think the only hoax that I kind of knew about, and I never even watched this video, but it was the volleyball one with the supposedly murder of like 14 plus people. And the only reason I say that is because of one of those images, not those other AI ones, but the one that had the actual timestamp. I feel like I have seen that in the thumbnail of a Nick Crowley video, but I never watched it. You know what I'm saying? I never watched it, and I think that may be the same thing. But I think even that one is fake. And that's another thing that the Lazy Man was showing us throughout this video and a couple of the stories. It was like, humans collectively can start believing some ish that never freaking happened together. And it's like the more people who join in on believing the ish, the bigger the flame get. The bigger, you know what I'm saying, the more convincing people be getting. Like, man, I remember that incident that happened in South Dakota. Even though some people were saying North Dakota, even though the article said Nebraska or South Dakota. You know what I'm saying, man? But it's like people really start believing that ish being team. One of the most crazy ones to me was the dude who well, all these were crazy, but just talking about the dude who fed into the narrative of his soup videos. Like, bro, come on, man. Then your last two weren't even worth it. You know how you put out a sequel to the movie and maybe it's good too, and then you try to put out a part 3 and a part 4, and at this point we like, come on, man, it ain't hitting the same no more. And those ones he put out like what, over 10 years later, it just was like, at this, man, maybe at that point he was like, man, people gonna find out it's fake, but I'm still gonna have fun with it. I'm gonna put my sister bandmate as the one being kidnapped, and we just gonna have fun with the whole thing. Because that's how I feel like he actually started it off. He started it off by just wanting to have fun with some freaking art. You know what I'm saying? Expressing himself through his videos, and people took it to the left, and he went left right along with them, man. Freaking crazy being team. But I digress. I'm gonna go let y'all go, man. We have been here long enough already. And before y'all leave already, just please, if you ain't already, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.